Hello there, my name is Mr. Ray, and I'd like to welcome you to Advanced Functions. For most of you, this is just going to be a continuation of the grade 11 functions, very similar in nature, just a little bit more in-depth material. Before I get too much further, rather than spend a whole lot of time introducing myself here, I've actually made a separate video for that. So if you want to head to that after you're done here, that would be fantastic. And there's actually something I would like you to do even before you do that when you're done this video. Actually, there's a couple things, I guess. And that would be to sign up for a virtual interview, which we should be doing later in the week, specifically September 8th, 9th, and 10th, I believe. So something that's coming up right away, you basically have to go watch the little video on what to do, sign up for a time slot, and then just join me for a 5 to 8 minute Google Meet, something quick and easy. So I can ask you a few questions, see how you're doing, and you can ask me any questions that you may have about the course or whatever else is going on. Actually, one other thing before we go any further with any of my videos, and that's at this point you should have done a orientation video on Brightspace. If you haven't done that, you may want to just stop this video now and go do it first. It will explain a little bit more about the website, its functionality. I'll talk a little bit about it as it applies to our course, but it may make more sense if you've done the orientation video already. Now, if you've already done it or you're just straight up refusing to do it, then continue watching and we'll go through a few things that you should know for advanced functions. First of all, we're going to have 8 units in this course. It's broken down into 8 parts. We're going to spend about 2 weeks on each, give or take. Some might be slightly shorter and some might be slightly longer, but expect around 2 weeks per unit. And I would say on average maybe about 3-4 lessons a week, possibly 5 a couple of weeks, depending on how it is. It just sometimes it's nicer to break it down that way. And I mean, if you're a little behind or a little ahead, that's okay. So it's, you can kind of figure out your own pace as we go through. We're going to start off by taking a look at polynomial functions. That's basically graphs of things like x squared plus 3x and all that stuff. Moving into Unit 2, we'll take a look at polynomial equations and inequalities, which is a fancy way of saying we're going to take those polynomial functions, set them equal to a value, and solve them, or solve things like x squared is less than 10, which most people would say, well, it just means x is less than 3 point something. But you have to keep in mind there's negatives and all kinds of other issues in there. And with bigger polynomials, those answers become a little bit more complex when we get into inequalities. But we'll show you how to do that then. In Unit 3, we'll move into rational functions, which is really kind of more polynomial functions. Rational, if you recall that word, just means fraction, ratio. And that just is something where there's a polynomial equation on the top of a fraction and a polynomial equation on the bottom of a fraction. Usually the bottom one is a little simpler, but not always. Once we're done that's kind of our big, that kind of function stuff. We'll move into trigonometry. We'll take a look at a bunch of different trig stuff in Unit 4. Unit 5, we'll look at trig functions, which are really cool for modeling phenomena, especially phenomena that go up and down over time. Specifically on repeated patterns. So things like temperature throughout the day. It gets warmer and colder at night, and then warmer next day and colder at night, warmer the next day and colder at night. Or temperatures throughout the year, amount of sunlight. There's a lot of things that go up and down and follow kind of trigonometric patterns. So we'll be able to model with those. Then we'll move into the exponential and more logarithmic functions. So exponentials are stuff that a lot of stuff in nature actually follows exponential type curves. Whether that's money or population growth, exponentials are pretty common and pretty useful in modeling. So we'll take a look at those for a little bit. Then we'll take a look at solving exponential and logarithmic equations. Same idea. Once we've kind of got the graphs down, we'll figure out how to solve problems with them algebraically, and that's kind of its own little thing. And then Unit 8, which we'll see how far how we're doing at that point. It's something I usually cut short in my in-class version, although we may have time to do it here because everything's sped up a little bit, so we may have time for it. It's basically just taking a look at modeling really complex things by mixing those functions together. So for instance, a good example of that would be something like temperature patterns throughout the year with climate change. So we know that two things happen year after year. Temperature goes up and down, following kind of like a trig pattern. But we also know that it's steadily increasing, well, very slowly exponentially, thankfully. But temperature is increasing exponentially. And so the temperature, if we graphed it, is actually going along an exponential, but up and down along an exponential. And that would be a mixture of trigonometric function and an exponential function. And we do all kinds of mixing of them. Really, it's just going to be kind of playing with it a little bit so you can see how that works for a more advanced mathematical modeling experience. We're going to talk a little bit about assessment. I'm going to try and shoot through most of these ideas pretty quickly, but just to make sure that you kind of know what my philosophies are and what methods I'll be using. Some of you may be used to the category of assessment, so knowledge and understanding, thinking and inquiry, communication, and applications. And I have known teachers in the past who actually break down questions and say, this is a communication question, and this is an inquiry question, and so on, and then mark based on that. I'm going to tell you that my philosophy is much different than that. I will make sure that those things appear in all evaluations, but I won't necessarily assign specific marks to any of them. And the reason for that is a lot of the stuff we do and a lot of stuff in mathematics really should be taking something we learned about mathematics and applying it in the real world, which means that most questions should be application questions that require knowledge and understanding to solve, but make you think and inquire and often communicate an answer. And in mathematics, communication actually has a couple of key components. It has what you kind of expect, which is like a therefore statement to word problems, but it's also using proper format and notations when you're expressing mathematics. That is mathematical communication. And because of that, most of the math questions we do will actually fall into all categories. So I'm not going to break it down, but I will assure you that they are all there in semi-close amounts. As far as your final grades in the course go, you're probably used to the 70% term mark, 30% summative, and exam, whatever. I'll be honest with you, because of the last couple of years with COVID and pivoting classrooms and changing things up, not that I foresee that for this, since this is already e-learning. I can't see them any kind of shutting down of the schools affecting us too much. But I'm not positive yet what the board's policy will be on assessment at the end of the course. So all I can say is I will get you that information later in the course as we get closer to it. But for now, let's not worry too much about that. I will say that there are going to be tests, assignments, and all that kind of stuff, quizzes, etc., that will be evaluated. And again, each of those will kind of explain to you what you need to do. For the most part, I don't think most students have a hard time understanding what's expected of them in math. I give you questions, you answer them to the best of your ability. That's pretty straightforward stuff. Course materials, things that you need in order to complete this course. The first couple I'm pretty sure you have, and that would be a computer and internet. If you're listening to this video, I'm guessing you have both. Now, when I say computer, I find a PC to be ideal, but you can work off a Chromebook just fine. What you may try, some of you, is working with a tablet or possibly even a phone to do the course. The phone, I'm going to say the screen is very small and it will just be very hard on your eyes. Some people have decent sized tablets and you're welcome to try them. I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't work, except that typing on them is pretty annoying. But if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, you may have to jump to a Chromebook or a computer. PC, Mac, doesn't really matter. We are going to be using some word processors for some of our assignments. I'm not sure how much. I'm going to try and do a fair bit of it that you can do it on pencil and paper and take, well, hold on for a second, I'll explain that. But anyway, we may use word processors. And I would recommend, although again, not required, I recommend and support MS Word, preferably one of the newest versions so that I kind of remember how it works. Some of the older ones actually work slightly differently, but not too much. Specifically for making equations. MS Office, MS Word has a very nice equation editor in it that does our work for us. You can do it almost as nicely, slightly differently. Some pros and cons in Google Docs to make equations in there. It's actually a little bit simplified, but not as pretty. So you gain in one, you lose in the other. But we need to do that. And then there are lots of other packages that you can use, OpenOffice, etc., that lets you do word processing. Most of them should have a built-in equation editor. However, if it's not MS Office or Google Docs, I won't support that because I don't use them, so I can't tell you how to fix them or how they work. If you know how to use them, fantastic. And most of them are very similar. It's just a matter of finding where the buttons are and kind of figure out the layout of them. But the rest is pretty much the same. And the final thing, which I was getting to, is we won't be using a processor for everything because typing math takes forever. It's ridiculously slow compared to pencil and paper, especially for long calculations with multiple steps. So for that, I am going to ask that you have preferably a scanner, but I realize most people don't have scanners anymore, and that's fine. Or at least a decent camera, something that you would take a picture of your work and submit it. And if you bear with me one sec, I'd like to show you something here. Yeah, here we go. This is an example of some work submitted to me that was taken with a cell phone camera. And your screen's not broken. That's exactly what it looked like when I received it. And I think you can see that I would have a hard time marking that. And it's not a matter of, oh, well, I'm being, picky and I just don't want to mark your work or being lazy. There's absolutely no way I can get any discernible information from that. And because of that, I can't possibly mark that. Now here's another one. This one's a picture taken of somebody's notes. It's quite decent. Like that's fine. Basically, I would hope that you can get it so that it is clear, that it is nice and readable, and that it kind of fits in the picture. The final request I'll make about that is, can you please try to make sure that the orientation is correct? There's nothing more difficult for me online than bringing up a photo within one of our programs, marking programs, which unfortunately do not have photo editing software in them. They just let me see what you submit, and getting something that's upside down or sideways, and then me trying to close the program, go out, edit it manually to switch to the right orientation, going back in. Very time consuming when I've got about almost 100 students in the semester and sometimes a couple evaluations each. So that can be a little bit of a pain. I'll also ask that you use the naming convention for files that you submit, and when it comes time to do that, I'll tell you what that is. But please pay attention to it, just so that I don't get a Dropbox that's filled with random name files and I can't figure out what they are. So for instance, if you're submitting work, you can call them, assignment 1, page 1, 2, 3. If you've got 3 pages, 3 photos, please don't call them assignment 1, more assignment 1, and another assignment 1. Things like that, because then they end up all over the place in my Dropbox alphabetically, and it's really just a little bit of a pain. Okay, going back to the next topic, which is submitting work. First of all, do the work, please. Like I can't grade things that you don't give me, and I can't pass you if you don't grade. It's not me being mean. It's I can't give you something for nothing. I have to evaluate what you've shown me. So do the work. If you have trouble with the due dates, I will lay those out for each of the individual things as we go. If you're having difficulty with them, please just let me know about that before they are due. So, for instance, if you know that you're going to be out of town or busy at a hockey tournament, I don't know if we can do those anymore right now with COVID, whatever. If you know something's coming up that you're going to be busy, let me know about it. I will try to accommodate that as best I can. We'll move something out, I'll make exceptions. If, however, you're given like a week to do something and it's due on a Tuesday, and you talk to me on Wednesday and say, yeah, I didn't really have time to get around to it, I'm hoping that you knew that you didn't have time to get around to it before that, because nothing should, unless a week's worth of work popped up on you and you were really busy, I can't see a real valid reason to give an extension on that. if something popped up last night and you were waiting to the last minute to begin the work or to finish the work, that's a responsibility issue. So if you can, I mean, by all means, take a few days to do the work, but if you're given a week to do something, don't start it the night before. Start it the second day it's assigned, the third day it's assigned, so that you've got at least a shot on it. You know what you're doing and you know what you're going to have trouble with before you actually get to a point where you can't get assistance. That brings us to the next point of get assistance. If you need help, please ask. I am happy to help anytime. Just send me an email. We can arrange a Google Meet if you'd like to go over something in more detail. A lot of times, if you've got a question, I can quickly jot something down, take a video of it like this, and then send you the video link, and you can watch it. And usually that does everything it needs to do. Plagiarism and cheating, something I need to talk about. When it comes to that, I'm going to try to point out that plagiarism is just copying something else, blatantly copying. So if you download a page from the internet, cut and paste it into an assignment, that is plagiarism. That's no, don't do that. Now, when it comes to assignments or anything like that, even tests, I can't really stop you from doing open book. I mean, let's be realistic. I can't see what you're doing at your desk at home. I don't really want to see what you're doing at your desk at home. If you want to use your books, please use your books. I'm actually going to right out now say, go ahead, go nuts on it. And the reason for that is, frankly, a bunch of people are going to do it anyway. The only ones that won't are the ones that feel like they're cheating and are trying to be honest. And I don't like penalizing people for doing the right thing. So to even the playing field, everyone's allowed to use their books. Now, something that I cannot tolerate is if you are copying off each other on tests. So if you're working together to complete evaluations, not so good. Now, if let's say you're doing an assignment, because assignments, honestly, they're worth a little bit of marks, but I'm expecting you to actually seek assistance on those. I mean, I will help you with an assignment. I will not help you with the tests. I just want to clarify what's okay and what's not okay with seeking help from others, like other classmates. Maybe you've got a friend in the class. If it's an assignment or the homework or whatever, and you're getting help from a friend, that's fine. Ideally, though, anything that you submit, you should be able to reproduce on a similar question. So, for instance, if you tell your friend, I'm having trouble with number 3 on the assignment, can you kind of give me some help on this? And they say, okay, here's what you might want to try. And then you do it, that's good. If at the end of it, you actually know how to do that kind of question and you're capable of doing a similar question, that's good. If you say, I didn't get question number 3, can you hand me your solution so I can copy it down? And at the end of that, you still are no better off than you were before because you copied without actually understanding, that's a not okay. Please do not do that. It doesn't help you in the long run. And ultimately, and I say this in all seriousness, there will always be somebody who thinks that they've beaten the system by cheating and getting a high mark. You will. You will get into university, you will pay a lot of money, and then you will get kicked out of the university because you won't know what you're doing. Prerequisites for university aren't just there for fun or because they're trying to, keep it elite. They're there because you need to be capable of that level of work if you want to continue on in that program. I always find it funny, people who are like, I just want to finish this math course so I can go to university and become an engineer. If you're having issues with high school math, going to university for engineering is not going to be a career that makes you particularly happy. So anyway, I hope that kind of clarifies my views on what's good and what's bad with copying or working with others. I encourage working with others, unless it's a test. Just please make sure that you learn from the experience instead of just copy from the experience. I think I've beaten that horse to death. So I will give you some of my tips for success in an e-learning course. 5 tips, quite simple. Tip 1, do the work. Tip 2, check the website regularly for material. Check 2 places, the activity feed, 1 second, I'll just bring that up for you so you can see it. There we go. So basically when you go to our web page here, and I can show you what's there, but there's really not much here yet. I still have some material to post. If you're on your course home, there's a little place here for it's called the activity feed. It's just for the posts that I make periodically. Right now, there's really nothing there. There's a little bit of a welcome. But this is where I'll post information about the course. So things like, hey, don't forget that assignment is due Wednesday. Or the assignment that's due next week, question number 3, skip it. It doesn't work. Things like that. So there'll be lots of information here that if you miss, you don't pay attention to, you may spend time or waste time doing things that can't be done or it could be done easier. So this is a lot of where I post corrections if there's any mistakes that are made in the course or material. Hopefully it won't be too many logic mistakes, it'll be typos, but that's where I'll post that stuff. And in addition to checking that pretty regularly, I would suggest daily. Also check up here to see if you have any mail. It looks like I have a notification. I don't know what that's for, but I'll look at it later. Check your mail to make sure that I haven't sent you any mail that's important. If you're getting the work done and there's nothing new there or there, you're doing fine. Don't worry about it. Those are things you have to check regularly. Okay. So, number 3 on my tips for success, do the work. Number 4, if you're having trouble doing the work, ask for help. Some of you think that I'm a very big scary bear type guy, and some of you think that I'm just like a big teddy bear. I'm not sure what you think of me, but I am very actually approachable. I get angry at a lot of things, but I don't get angry at students who are seeking help. That's a pretty cool thing. So if you have trouble, please ask me for it. Like, I'm happy to assist in any way I can, unless it's tech support, in which case contact tech support here. Just go to where is it up here? Tech at home, right there. That's where you get tech support, but not me, because I'm horrible at tech support. The only person I offer tech support for is my mother, and sometimes I wish I didn't even do that. Okay, and finally, tip number 5, do the work. Okay, so I think that probably drives home my priorities in the course. I think we're probably good. Just before I go, I'm going to leave you with one significant idea, and that's that if something does not work, if there's a broken link, if there's something that doesn't make sense, if there's something that's outdated, hopefully there won't be any of that in this course, but there's always a chance. If anything seems wrong, contact me via email, ask me about it, and I will either clarify, maybe you're missing a detail or something, or I will fix what the problem is. There's been plenty of times where a student will come to me and say, I can't get number 3 on this assignment, and I've tried it over and over again, I'm stuck. And I tried, it's impossible because there's some kind of typo in the question. So I'll just post, skip question 3 on the assignment. But I can't do that if no one tells me about it. So if you find anything that's broken in any way, shape, or form with the course, let me know, and I will do my best to fix it as soon as possible. And lastly, since I've told you several times here to email me, I'd like to kind of let you know what my expectations of myself are on email. I've been doing this e-learning thing. I haven't done it in a couple years, but I had done it for several years before that. And it's basically a 24/7 job because people are just firing emails off at me like constantly. I am going to attempt, for my own mental sanity, to limit my email replies outside the working day. So if you send me an email at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, I may not reply to it until the next morning. If you send it during the day, I will usually reply fairly quickly. Exceptions would be if I'm in the middle of making a video, like this one right now. I probably won't stop to answer the email. I'll wait till I'm done. And sometimes I will be actually teaching my class online. So that'll be afternoons every other week, I believe, unless something weird changes. But either way, I will normally reply fairly quickly to emails. I check them regularly. Okay, I think that's it. So again, just a quick reminder that when you're done this, go down and book yourself a time slot, or watch the little video about booking yourself a time slot for the virtual interviews, and I will see you there in the coming days. And oh yeah, the Meet Me, Meet Mr. Ray little video there. Again, not mandatory, but at the beginning of most of my courses, I like to do a get to know you type thing, and through e-learning, that's a little trickier. So I put that video together, and it talks about my interests and kind of my life. And honestly, I've found in the past, I've managed to bond with some students that I know did not bond well with teachers because they're like, oh, you like this band? I didn't think anyone else liked them. Or, oh, it's my favorite TV series or whatever. So I do talk about some of that stuff there. And if you're interested in any of it, you talk to me about it. You know, if you one of the best things that you could do as a student for me as a teacher, I mean, I guess do good, get good marks, be successful. Those are good things too. But tell me what your favorite movie is. Tell me what your favorite band is. I've had students introduce me to so many cool bands and a few good TV shows and movies. Like some of my favorites I never would have heard of if a student had pointed me in the right direction. It helps make me feel younger. Anyway, I'm gonna stop there. Don't do those other things, and I will see you in those videos or in the virtual interview or in the lessons later.